Hey everybody, Tekking here, and I'm here for a very important reason today. To correct a mistake. So back when I did my video chronicling all the different races in One Piece, I was pretty thorough for the most part, but when it came to giants, I glossed over a huge subset or subspecies of their race. Let's just call them devil giants or demon giants. And it really sucks too. I mean, I know there was a bunch of you guys, you loyal listeners out there that commented like, how could you make a video like this and not talk about Oars or not talk about, Oars Jr. or what about Kaito? You know, Kaito also has the horns that look like very similar to Oars and his clan, so what was up with them? And you know what? That was 100% my fault, and I even feel worse about it than normal, because there are times when I forget to bring stuff up in videos, but there is no excuse. I even wrote out my notes for that video that clearly put, Oars in them, and I just forgot. I mean, they were right in front of me the entire video, and I just skipped over it to go to other things. Right, so this whole thing starts in the Thriller Bark arc with the introduction of Oars. Okay, Oars was a giant amongst giants. At the point in the story when he was introduced, he was the most massive thing we have ever seen in the One Piece world. Okay, now we were used to seeing like giants every now and then popping up, like Dory and Broggy and Little Guard, and then Oimo and Kashi show up in Eni's lobby, but just look at this size comparison between Oimo and Kashi, standing on top of each other compared to Oars. They're not even like halfway up his freaking mammoth-sized body, and you see a human off to the right there, so this was the size we were looking at. It just made it all the more impressive and cool when all the Straw Hats banded together to fight against him, and I think maybe that's the reason Oda came up with a design for him like that. Like, man, I want a character where all the Straw Hats, every single one of them, can team up to fight against the same character, and then maybe he came up with Oars for that. Also, I remember reading like the shitty translations before like the current ones came into vogue, and translations were always a little bit more wonky back in the day because Oars was introduced back in like 2006, 2007, so the translations on the internet weren't that great like they are now. But I remember the first translations for his character being Oz instead of Oars, and I don't know, I always felt Oz sounded cooler because it had a Z in it, and that always makes it cooler. And I don't know, what do you feel, Oars or Oz? What would you be cooler if he was named after that? But anyway, Oars is badass. He led a tribe of similarly, large giants around the world. They're not related to Elbaf in any way, so they don't really have any of their sort of customs involving battle. The warriors of Elbaf, they're all for a good scrap. They're all for a good fight. But it's always, there's rules and shit here. You don't go around and just, kill people wantingly. There seems to be rules and shit. And they do it in the name of Elbaf, their island, and their god figure or whoever. That thing's kind of, we'll probably find out more about that in the future. Oars was more just like a pillager, like a barbarian sort of guy that would just, stomp over places. His nickname was the Continent Puller for just how massive he was. However, even despite his massive size, he was still not immune to the elements, and he also probably wasn't the sharpest crayon in the box because he was wandering in the Arctic realm of One Piece and ended up freezing to death, and then somehow Moria and Hogback came across his corpse, kept him in Thriller Bark in a giant freezer until Luffy came around and they used his shadow to revive him, and that really gave us the full scope of like the size and the power of this species of devil giants. Now, it's not really great to look at Oars as a perfect example of this because he was already dead. He was brought back to life. You had Moria manipulating him. You had him, being changed around by the Kage no Mi's power. You had Luffy's personality in him. So there's just a lot of variables there outside of just his sheer size and his sheer power. It's not like we find anything really about Oars. We don't find out like, if there's more of his species that's around, or what's the name of his species, or what's their relationship with the other giants, or anything of that nature. Now, granted, we still don't know practically any of that stuff, but moving on to Marineford, we at least get the confirmation that Oars' blood still lives on, with the introduction of Little Oars Jr., who is about the same size as Oars, if not maybe a little bit bigger, larger than the average, first marine battleship, able to just pick that shit up out of the water, large enough to fight off against other giants, like they're normal-sized humans to him, not really that much of a threat, except Oars Jr. is alive, so he's a little bit more, you know, he can hold weapons and shit and the other things that just Oars we didn't get to see exhibit, you know? He also doesn't seem to be as intelligent as a lot of the other characters, you know, giants are big, but, you know, not all giants are stupid. Some of them are actually really intelligent. But we get to Oars and Oars Jr., and they seem to be at least very dedicated to a single task. Oars Jr. was just all about trying to rescue Ace, and maybe he felt like because he was so big, he never really had any major opposition in his life, so he could just charge forward and just grab Ace and then get out of there as quickly as possible. I mean, hey, Occam's razor, I'm just saying that he wasn't aware that, yes, there were a lot of stronger characters around the area, and size really doesn't matter in this situation because, you know, Kuma Ursus just shocked him out of fucking existence, and then you had Doflamingo cutting off his leg like it was nothing. So Oars Jr. really didn't think much of this, but actually disregarding everything Oars Jr. actually did during the Marineford arc, you know, fighting against the Marines and trying to rescue Ace, the most important thing that we find out about his bloodline, I guess, is on his pirate flag. So Oars' pirate flag looks like this. It says Oars, you know, it has his Jolly Roger, which is in the shape of his head and his horns, and then it has 3 written in Roman numerals on it. And so the way that I took that when I saw that initially is that Oars Jr. was the third to bear that name. In other words, he's Oars' grandson. So that would make sense, because I think there was like a gap of like what was it, like 300 or 400 years that Oars was like, you know, pillaging villages and then ended up getting frozen and dying of like frostbite or whatever. And then you have, you know, years passing by, and we already know that giants can live 3 times as long as humans, upwards of like 300, 350 years old. So if Oars conceived a child before he got frozen in the ice, man, that would wreck mountains when you're... Okay, whatever. Anyway, he conceived a child, Oars second, and then that, you know, giant grew up and then had Oars Jr., or Little Oars Jr., I guess I should say. And so this would imply, though, that they're still around somewhere. And it's like, how do you kind of miss these giants? So I'm really hopeful that Oda will touch upon this race at some point, or this sub-race, or whatever you want to call them, the Devil Giants. Because if Little Oars Jr. is around, then there's probably more of them. Maybe not a lot. Maybe they might even be on, like, the verge of dying out. But they clearly don't seem to be the same as normal giants, you know? Like, there are giants in the world that, like Jaguar D. Sol, that resemble the giants of Elbaf. They're just culturally separate from that. And you can just excuse that. You could just say, well, maybe Sol's ancestors left Elbaf, settled somewhere else, and then that's where he came into existence. And then maybe some other giants did that too, that aren't directly connected to Elbaf, but they still look the same. But Oars and Oars Jr. and the members of his bloodline, they're completely different. They're way bigger. They all have these really unique horns that kind of curve upwards, and like the long hair and everything. So, yeah, they might be something else entirely that might have descended from another land that we just have never even heard about yet, and there might not be a lot of them left. So then we get characters like Kaito, who are also way larger than your average human, although not quite on the same level as Oars and Oars Jr. I don't even know if Kaito is the same level as a giant. I'm thinking maybe a normal giant might be a bit taller than Kaito, but Kaito is a pretty strong, muscular dude. His strength is like unparalleled. The dude just simply can't die, and he's got those horns, which harken back to Oars and Oars Jr., so I could see a few possibilities here. For one thing, he could be a crossbred species, like we've seen before. He could be a crossbreed between... I don't know how the fuck you would make this work, but, you know, a devil giant species and a human. I don't think that's the case, because, like I said, how would you manage that? And that also doesn't explain his nigh immortality, and you know what I mean? I think it might be far more likely, if we're gonna go that route with it, it might be more likely that there is a zone fruit, or a mythical zone fruit, that has the traits of, like, a devil giant race. Like, Chopper ate the human fruit. So, by that logic, there might be a giant fruit, or a human fruit model giant, if you want to go that. I think they're separate completely, but if you want to go that route with it, sure. I mean, the point is that there might be a devil fruit out there that has the power of Orz's clan. It might even be an ancient zone. Because, you know, they might have already died out. You know, who knows? Orz Jr. could be like the last surviving member so far. We don't know. And then Kaido ate that fruit, considering Kaido is the ruler of the Beast Pirates, and his whole thing is having a crew that has a bunch of zone powers. It would only make sense that he has zone powers too. And because he got the power from the devil fruit, and he was already like a pretty buff, strong guy, that's what gives him his incredible strength. Like the strength of Orz compressed down in his... It's not a tiny body, it's like, I think he's like 20, 30 feet tall or whatever, but he's still, you know, compared to Orz and Orz Jr., he's pretty small. You know, it's like compressing all that power into that body, and if he got the power from like a mythical zone, I can understand why he would be like nigh immortal in that regard. Now, when I did my Kaido discussion video, I stated that I don't really like the idea of Kaido having a devil fruit. I like the idea of Kaido just being a ridiculously strong, you know, human. But looking into all the different races in One Piece and everything, I'm starting to think, like, maybe, because it is kind of absurd. Even, like, the really large humans that we see in the story don't seem to hold a candle to Kaido. You know, even characters like Kuma we see, and, like, the Frankie family had those, like, strong men that were pretty big. But Kaido is, like, he's a little bit bigger than even them, like Kuma and Whitebeard and Moria, and he's also has all these extra traits. There's, like... If he doesn't have a devil fruit, like some sort of like giant or Oni devil fruit, I know that's something else that gets thrown out a lot. He had like the Oni no Mi or something. But you know, let me tell you this much: let's say it is that. Let's say it is like a mythical zone Oni demon fruit. I still think there is a connection to Orz or Orz Jr. Hell, that might be what their species is called. It might just be the demon race. You know, because, hey, a giant fucking red creature with horns and giant fangs stomping through your fucking town like it was fucking nothing, like he didn't even register it was there, seems kind of indicative to a demon to me, I'm just saying. So, that could be the case. People throw out Moria, like Moria might be part of this too. Now, Moria doesn't really show any sort of, like, he doesn't have the same kind of horns. Yeah, he does have, like, weird horns sticking out of his head, but... Moria is so fucking... I don't think he's related. I don't think he's related to Orz or Orz Jr. or Kaito or something. Maybe there might be some, like if there is some sort of relationship, it's not like a direct thing. Maybe it would explain, like, why he has such an interest in Orz and his clan. Perhaps, I don't know, but he doesn't really exhibit any of the traits. You know, he's not even like Kaito, where he's, like, insanely strong or invincible or anything. He's actually one of the more weaker members of the Seven Warlords, if we're really being honest about it. He might just be a human with some weird features, I don't know. But I don't think he's related to Orz or Orz Jr. or Kaito in any way. I'd say Kaito would be far more, you know, being related to them just because the similar horns. Oh, and by the way, I also know that there's characters on Kaito's crew that have horns as well, like Jack. Although Jack's horns aren't the same thing. They don't go down and up. They just extend out of his head and just go like bull antlers, more like it. Not bull antlers, bull horns, sorry. But what's the difference between an antler and a horn? Fuck, I'm gonna have to look that up tonight. But anyway, yeah. His horns aren't the exact same, but I want to say that maybe, like, in Jack's case, they might not even be real. They might be, like, fake or something, because the members of Kaito's crew obviously have him in high regard. He is a Yonko, so they might have, like, the fake horns attached to them, you know, to all show, like, they're members of the Beast Pirates or something. But I think Kaito's are genuine, whether they be from his natural heritage or they be... from his devil fruit. You could go even further with it, maybe making it a little bit more complicated, but you could say, like, Kaito is, like, half giant, like a half normal giant, but then he consumed a devil fruit and got the devil demon powers. You know, you could add more and more stuff onto it like that. I don't know. Kaito is certainly a strange beast, though, and whenever we do find out what he really is, I think he's gonna be one of a kind. You know, because you can't have characters like Kaito Kaido running around like they're naturally occurring, you know? He's like a one-of-a-kind sort of creature that managed to exist. And I think that's really the reason how he became a Yonko. Like, how does somebody become a Yonko? Well, in Shanks' case, you know, Shanks is extremely intelligent. He's got the pedigree. He's got the past with Roger. He knows how to be a pirate. In Big Mom's case, you know, she's not the most intelligent, but she's got the power. She's got the devil fruit ability that's really fucking OP. And she's got the body in order for her to enact this ability. And Big Mom is certainly also one of a kind. And then you have Blackbeard, which we all know about Blackbeard, but I think it's more of a situation like Kaito came into existence one way or the other, half giant, half devil, found the rare mythical zone Oni Oni no Mi, and as soon as he became, you know, who he is now currently, it's just, like, inherently, he's so strong that people are just scared of him and flee from him, and the government just inherently has an intense fear of what he could do, and because of that, he started a pirate life because he was being probably pursued and wanting to be killed by the government because they can't leave him alive, which led him to gain a pirate crew, and which led him to become a Yonko. Just his very existence is a threat. But I would like to see the history with these. I want to see if Oars Jr. really is like the grandchild of Oars. Like, okay, who's Oars the second then? Are we going to find out about that? Are we going to find about the distant land where they come from? You know, we like Chopper hypothesized that Oars was from this Arctic continent and he froze. That's where he died, but he might have not have been there originally. But there might be some, I'm getting the image of like some strange like shadow land, like dark region in One Piece that like nobody goes, like it might be at the very bottom or top of the planet, some like area that's all like just burnt to cinders and shit, and is like, oh, that's the land of the demons, we don't go there. And that might be kind of like where Oars' clan comes from. Who knows? There's not very many of them, that is obvious, so yeah, they might either just be near extinction, or there might be more of them in this distant, far-off land that just nobody ever goes to, and only a few of them ever come into the modern world. Who knows? But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about Oars and his bloodline. You know, this was only intended to be like a short segment in the One Piece, races explained video, so it wasn't going to be super long and drawn out, but that's basically everything I wanted to say. What are your thoughts on Oars and Oars Jr.? What are your thoughts on Kaido and what he is, what powers he might have, and if he's that race naturally? In terms of like unique abilities, I don't think they have them. I think they're just, because they're so huge and because of their power and strength, because of that, they were just able to conquer as much as they were able to. And then in the case of Kaido, maybe if he's half human or something, he has more intelligence than they did, so he can go further than they did. But okay, that's everything. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Once again, sorry for that. Hope you guys have a great day. I think the chapters are going to be released tomorrow if everything goes according to plan, so check you back here then. Signing out, everybody.